Are we live? 1 tick, 2 tick, 3 tick, live. Well, yes, we are live. We are live. Everybody, yes, just chill out a little bit. Still early. All right. Well, welcome if you are joining us this morning. It is Wednesday here in the Southern Hemisphere. For those of you everywhere else, potentially Tuesday, if it is. Wednesday's looking good if you're enjoying rain and grey clouds. Or is that just here in Melbourne? I am Aileen Day, the owner of Meraki Business Solutions and Value-Driven Brand, and Aileen Day Consulting, I guess. And someone pointed out to me yesterday, I'm also the owner of Ripley. I was watching back one of my videos yesterday, and Ripley my dog made a what's the word? He made an appearance. So, yes, I'm also the owner of Ripley, which was amusing to me. Anyway, we are going to be talking today all things creating a value-driven brand, as we usually do, as well as talking about the joy of sex. And when we talk about the joy of sex, for those of you who have joined us before, yes, you are on LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube. You are not on Pornhub, but we are talking about the joy of the customer, the employee, and the human experience. And when you put those things together, you get the joy of sex. Now, people have recently just joined us, and I keep getting messages asking, why do I call it the joy of sex? And how did I get sex from something that starts with a C? But there is exactly the answer. Because customer experience as an abbreviation is CX. So when you add an E and an H in there, you get sex. So I have started putting everywhere how to pronounce it so that you understand my innuendo. And yes, I know it's innuendo, and it got your attention, right? So, and it's quite fitting because it's really a stretch. There is so many alignments to great sex and great sex. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. Creating a value-driven brand using sex, but starting with your culture. So there are probably not off the top of my head, but when I was considering, what are we going to talk about today? I thought, right, I want to help you as a business owner, as a leader, as an entrepreneur in either your own organization or somebody else's, understand what it takes to create a value-driven brand. And the reality is that you cannot create a sustainable value-driven brand is able to maximize transitions in and evolutions in your business without this one thing, and that is a value-driven culture. Now, culture in organizations in all parts of the world, in between families, is something that is so subjective. But one thing is really quite consistent, no matter where you go, is that a culture is something that people want to it in their life. It delivers value, that they experience humanity. And if we're doing culture well, people are loyal to that culture as well. And it could be a cult. I've been watching a few documentaries on cults recently. Amazon Prime, a good documentary. And can I just say, it is scary how many cults come out of the US. I don't know what's going on over there, but they definitely are very good at drinking the Kool-Aid, which is another cult reference. So, but what they do is the people that lead these cults are apart from sociopaths and really scary people, they actually understand the inherent behaviors that drive a trusted and value-driven culture. And that is why people who need and want, and it is a completely normal human thing to want to be included and to be involved and to be connected to other humans. And what the leaders of these cults have really just done is find ways to help people find those connections, find those like-minded people who drive value into each other's lives. Whether you agree with it or not, that's what they've done. So if you are a business owner, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a leader in somebody else's business or your own, or you know what, I don't even care. You could be the mother of a household. You are the leader, right? The rationale behind who shows leadership is so wide and varied, right? If you are a human being and you want people to feel connected in the setting, in the environment that you deliver, then I've got a few handy hints for you. Very what's the word? It's not old. Well, I say old, like I feel like 1990 was just 5 years ago. Turns out it was a lot longer, like 21 years ago. That scares me. Oh, goodness gracious. If it was 5 years ago, I'd only be 15, and doing these would be very interesting. But so in the 90s, it came to great popularity that organizations would create what was called Day. It was something that was a given. We did not open a business, a Bunnings location, without the team, the opening store team coming together and setting what would become that location's vision and values. What was going to be the non-negotiables that that team would live and breathe as far as behaviors go to help them succeed, to help them, you know, deliver on the key pillars that Bunnings wanted for their customers and for their team. And, you know, we've seen them before: best service, best prices, all that stuff. So very interesting process, because you've got potentially 200 people all having a say in what they deem a necessary value to them. And over the over the few days that this would be done, or the day and a half or whatever it was, you had to take 200 people's views and put them into basically 5 to 8-ish. I did work at one store that had 9, 10 even. Yeah, it was getting to be a mouthful. But they would basically whittle them down and they would create their store values, their team values. And the beautiful thing about creating their team values was that that also became what the team deliver, carry themselves about their employment, and also be willing to be held accountable to. And it wasn't just the team per se, the team on the floor, it was the leadership team as well. There was no hierarchy when it came to living that value, right? Everybody was accountable to living those values. And it was interesting, recently I was having a conversation with one of my clients who was having some challenges with one of their team members, and I said, and she's like, I don't know how to pull them up on what they're doing. And I said, well, you have values? And she said, yes. I said, are they living those values? And she said, oh God, no. I said, well, then there's your account. Where talk about them? Yes, of course we do. Great. Then you're going to hold them accountable to them, because they are the ones who helped create and define those values. And even if they're not, even if they came in, and as you could imagine, the original 200 people that opened up a Bunnings store don't end up being the same 200 people 20 years later, right? I can go into my original store here at Fountain Gate in Narre Warren and probably only know 3 people out of the original hundreds, right? Because people move and whatever, leave, come in, weren't the original deliverer or instigator of those values. You enter into that location, hopefully you as a leader have communicated that through your recruitment process, and they as an employee understand what they're going to be held accountable to, that they as an employee also value those behaviors, and that they too want to live and breathe those values, so that if on the flip side something doesn't quite go right and they're not living those values, which unfortunately sometimes happens, you have those values as your way of bringing people back to the middle, right? Of being able to say without ego, without, being called a bastard, you have the capacity to bring the team and anyone under those values back in line by realigning them with the behaviors that they all agreed to upon entering that location. So you think, yeah, okay, that sounds all great and shit, but how do I do that? Well, if you are a business, whether you work on your own or you have 500 people of your own team, it doesn't really matter. Sit down, include anyone you need to include, and I want you to consider exactly this. What are the behaviors that you cannot do business without? So if I think about what are the non-negotiables for me as a business owner, what are the non-negotiables for me that I must have work with my, and I have 7. I did have 5, but over the last 4 years, 2 have crept in, and they've become really, really valuable to me, really important to me. So the very first non-negotiable behavior that I value in my business, in my brand, whether it is my employees, my subcontractors, customers, the very top on my list is integrity. And it's very funny because some people will fight, I want honesty in my brand, or I want integrity. This was literally the most common argument, the difference between honesty and integrity. And in my preference, I say it's integrity because it covers honesty. Because if you have integrity, you're being honest and transparent in the way that you work, in the things that you do, in the things that you say. And it's one thing to say, integrity is a value for me. But then what I want you to do is I want you to put a sentence behind that helps anybody really paint the picture of what that looks like for you, right? What do you mean when you say integrity is a value? So for me, I have being honest and true to yourself and to those around you. So if you tell me you're going to do something, I believe you because I believe that you work with integrity. There's no other reason for you to be working with me otherwise. If you have integrity, I believe that if you say something to me or if you do something, that you did it with the highest of integrity. You didn't try to cheat anyone out of something. You didn't try to go around something the back way to mitigate not having to face up to something. Like, you were just upfront, honest, and doing what you do with wholehearted integrity. The second one I have, but in what I do, it's very easy for people to go into a downward spiral of everything is shit and I can't fix it and doom and gloom. And I come in and I am one of those people who, as much as I love to have a little bitch every now and then, there is always a silver lining. There is always a way to get what we want with integrity, right? So the second one I have is positivity. And I have a sentence way to achieve our goals. And it's just so simple, right? It doesn't need to be rocket science. But what that does is it tells anybody that works with me, that I work with, that I will find a way. I will maybe spend 5 minutes screaming and pulling my hair out like I did the other day recording a podcast, and the internet kept dropping out because all the kids here in Melbourne are on the internet, and I hope they're doing homework, but they're probably playing Fortnite. But the internet was absolutely shot, and I kept having my podcast drop out, and I had, number one, I said I was going to do it, and number two, I didn't want to let that ruin what was becoming a really great podcast. So I have positivity. The third I have is engagement. Be in the moment to be a part of something special. And we all know how much time we spend with our faces in this thing, and it's so easy to do. But at the same time, if we don't become engaged in the moment, then we're going to miss out. And that applies not just to your organization, but that applies to your life, right? It applies to the way that you live. It applies to the way you parent. It applies to the way you interact with your friends and family. If you cannot be engaged, and it's actually interesting, I was having this conversation yesterday, and we were talking about how we watch people's videos, but we don't engage. Oh no, sorry, I engage, just so they know I'm there. And but it's really interesting because so many people just sit back, and you've got to question, are they engaged? Are they paying attention? You know, if you're sitting in a meeting, and actually I was reading an article recently, and they were basically saying that the first person to touch their phone is the first person to take notes the next meeting. So making little things like that where you discourage people to be distracted is really important. Finding ways to keep people engaged. And on that note, if you are here watching live, this could backfire because there might be no one watching live. If you're here watching, live or not, throw your name in, say hi, right? Get involved. Let me know you're alive. Then I have support. Support is a really huge one for me. I pretty much live and breathe being here for people, supporting my clients, supporting my friends and family. And it makes me feel like I give back, right? I hate it when people need help and they can't get it. So I try very hard to always make sure that in some way, shape or form, I am supporting those around me. And I do that by saying here for you, here for me, because sometimes I need to support myself, and here for us. So you start to get the idea, right? The other values that I live by, passion, probably no great shock. I used to get told all the time, oh, you're so emotional. Not emotional. I'm passionate. I just got to focus the passion. Hilarious. The other one I have is experience, and that is one of my newest ones. And that has come in the last couple of years since I've really, speaking of focusing down this channel of customer, employee, and human experience. And for me, experience means learning and living to deliver value to enhance humanity, because my vision for everything I do is to help you deliver a value-driven brand. So the offset is that you can go off and have a value-driven life. And to do that, it is all about the experiences. And the last thing I have is momentum, because we have to always be moving forward, whether it's in failure, success, or development. There has to be momentum. And that is one that I created last year when I set up the Momentum Business Accelerator coaching group coaching program. So, yeah, it's been really, really epic to have my own set of values that I know that I can use as a compass, as a way to my in the Russian. And I would love to see you, if you don't already, have those values for yourself. And if you need help, then you need to get in touch with me. Also, I have decided to do an end of year financial sale. How exciting! I think. And if you are interested in working with me, you can have the opportunity to get 5% off your total services if you put in a purchase order before the 28th of June, so that I can give it to my accountant to do the right thing by, and you win, and we both get to work together, which is very exciting. That's the exciting part. So if you're interested in that, go over to my website at aileenday.com.au and go /services to go and check out what that could mean for you and how you can get the joy of sex in your business, amongst so many other things. But let's get to number 2. I want you to use those values. I want you to then use them to have candid communication, upfront, honest, timely communication, and help your team, including yourself. My new favorite term at the moment is lead by example. I know it's an oldie, but it's a bloody goodie, right? Lead by example. Whether you are a parent, an adult, you are a person in charge or a person at large, lead by example, right? If you want someone to do something, then best you be doing it too. And then use those to hold people accountable as well. And it's accountable in like a disciplinary way, but use them to hold them accountable for the great things that they do as well. If people live those values day in, day out, like they said they would, recognize that. Use them as a leader, as an influencer to others, right? Because that is what value-driven brands do. The third thing I want you to do is I want you to encourage a human experience. You are a human. You are a human being. Sometimes you might feel like not quite human, depending on the day. I was able to decide not to. But I want you to consider, and they like being treated like a human. And what that means is they like being included. They like being collaborated with. They like being recognized. They like being involved, and they like being connected. Sometimes they even like being challenged in a fair and equitable way, right? So find ways to make sure that you are treating those around you like the wonderful human beings that you are. And sometimes I'm going to throw this out there. If you've just got a bunch of shit humans around you, there's usually one of two things going on. You're making them shit. I know. You're sitting there going, screw you. But that's possible. There's a really great leadership kind of anecdote saying that if everything's going wrong or something's going wrong, the first thing you need to do is look in the mirror. And sometimes that's a really hard thing to do, is to hold yourself accountable when you don't believe that you should be. But if you are the leader, then who else is going to be? Right? So it means that you are going to have to develop the ability for them to know that you are a human, that sometimes mistakes happen, right? But that doesn't mean that we're not all robots. Well, most of us aren't robots. Actually, none of us are robots. Sometimes we're like super good, but those are off days. So I want you to find ways to make sure that you I want you to do is I want you to learn about what others value. So it's interesting. When I started doing my business plan a couple of years ago, I got to the section where it said demographics, and I actually crossed out the demographics, and the reason I put in their value graphic, because you may have, if you tuned in before, heard me talk about value graphics from David Allison, and I will put his details if you're watching on LinkedIn. Go Lison, and he is the founder of Value Graphics. And the reality between psychographics and demographics and all that stuff is that they don't tell you what the human values. You could have two different psychographic or demographic groups who still both value all of the same things. So what are you going to do? Are you going to target them because of what they dress or the car they drive or the place they live? Or are you going to target them for the values that they share? Because trust me, in, again, a Bunnings warehouse where you've got 200 plus team members, I promise you there's a very low consistency around or similarities around any of those people, right? You might go, okay, well, 30% are this age group, 40% of this age group and whatnot. But the reality is they all, as we've already proven, they all share the same values. So learn about what those people value individually. As a leader, I know that one of my clients values words of affirmation. I know another client values gifts, which sounds funny, but every time I meet them, I give them a little gift or something that makes them think, oh, yeah, I love working with Aileen. She gets me, right? And I'm the same. I love gifts. No, you miss that at all. It's that somebody was thinking of you enough that when they saw something or that they have this relationship with you, that they know you, that when they see something, they go, Aileen would love that, or, so-and-so would love that. And that is what brings people together. That is what creates a culture, that you have a relationship, that people will do things for each other and they know each other, that they don't want to leave, right? Nobody knows me like that person. I was just talking to a bunch of CX people on Twitter today about that type of stuff. How do you build relationships? How do you create VIPs? Well, you create VIPs by personalizing your relationship with people so that they feel so important, that they feel like nobody knows them like you do. And you as a leader can do exactly that with the people that you work with. Whether it's your suppliers, right? We used to have truck drivers. I would know all about their kids. And they would think they were kings, right? Because the boss wants to know about their kids. And it's not really an ego thing, but it's a wow, I feel seen, right? How do you help your team feel seen? How do you help them feel connected? You do that by finding out what they value. And then you'll also find out probably what they're motivated by as well. All right, the last thing I want to talk about, having an outward mindset. I have talked about this a few times, and Danny Ginsberg from the Arbinger Institute, yep, said that pretty right. I always tongue-tie myself when I think about that. I'll tag him again, but we have talked about, and if you go to valuedrivenbrand.com/podcast series, you will find the podcast that I did with Danny, all about having an outward mindset. And in summary, basically what it means is to be thinking outwardly, to not be selfish, to have the conversations, to communicate, to be the type of person who thinks about others before they think about themselves. And that's not in a, don't care for yourself type way. Don't deliver the same love to yourself that you deliver to others. Don't, not look after yourself. What it means is that if things need to be done, don't put them off because it makes you feel shitty, right? If conversations need to be had, don't do what my ex-boss used to do and wait till 3 p.m. on a Friday afternoon to ruin my bloody weekend, right? That is an inward mindset. And to build a strong, trusted, value-driven culture, you need to have an outward mindset. You need to have those conversations, those communications. They need to be candid. They need to be upfront. They need to be honest, and they need to be two-way, right? So if you can give it, you've got to be ready to take it. And I promise you, when you let your team be upfront and candid and also have an outward mindset with you, the strength and the culture will be bar none. And you know what? People might be able to copy what you sell or copy what you do, or you might have heaps of competitors in your field. Like, tell me what, like there's consultants a dime a dozen, right? But how do I stand out from every other consultant? Well, I stand out by having an outward mindset. If it needs to be said, I will say it. I will be upfront. I will be honest. And yeah, I might be shitting myself at the reaction. And it might hurt that I have to say those things. But if I kept them within myself and I wasn't honest with you or with the person in question, then I am being selfish. I am having an inward mindset. I am not serving you. And I am here to serve you. I might be the boss, but it's still my job. You're my customer. You might be my employee, but you're still my customer. And it is my job to make sure that you feel served. So to serve your team, to serve those around you, you need to have an outward mindset. And I will find that podcast and tag it in here as well so that you can go and check out that really awesome episode, because it was definitely one of my favorites, and I froth over all of that stuff, especially because I've experienced so many inward mindsets. I now can't live with an inward mindset. I feel like, sometimes they say it's really great to have a great leader, but truly it's really great to have a less than great leader as well, because as long as you weigh the difference between what they did versus what they could have done better, and you become that better version, then really it's an experience. It's a living learning values. Hi, Denise. Oh, that's good. You would love that. You're all about the outward mindset, which is exactly what I love as well. All right, guys and ladies and gents and anyone in between, if you next your time, we're talking about evergreen content, this could be something you see in 6 years and you're like, oh, wow, that was ages ago. But you know what? It's still relevant. That's the good thing about this stuff. So if you are watching this, feel free to put your name in there, say hi so that I can reply and say thank you. And also, if you are interested in checking out the 5% end of financial year .au/services, and you can get in touch with me and we can talk about how we're going to get you more sex. That is it for me today. We will be back one rest of the week, make it productive and have all the sexy time. Until then, I'm Aileen Day. Talk to you later.